This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenrail radio playlist. zenrailclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Portian Bakery. If you're located in the Portian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Portian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. Okay, before we jump fully into this podcast, I'd like to preface it with the fact that, as you probably can tell, I have a bit of a cold. Thankfully, not COVID. Took 2 of those COVID tests just to be sure. Surprisingly, not as bad as I thought it would be. Although I did go deeper than the instruction manual because I just wanted to be really, really safe. Yeah. Thank you, inventors who can provide them everywhere and scale them up. I don't know. Remember when we started like the COVID podcast series, and I was like, "Oh, it would just be easier if we could just have rapid tests everywhere." Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now it's like because we were like, I was with my sister and I was like Googling it. Where can you get the rapid test? And it's like literally everywhere now. So we thought it would, like, remember before it's like only at specific locations. Yeah. Now they're at like every major grocery retailer and Shoppers Drug Mart. And you just like walk in. There's like no like waiting or like or paying. There's like, I need a COVID rapid test, and they just like hand it to me. Comes in a really nice little package. Anyways, yeah, I was thinking I think it's still a bit too early to do the post-COVID podcast because we're still in the midst of it. We haven't lost masks yet, right? Yeah. Masks are gone on the 21st, and then that's when we'll really see like how things
in certain event places.
Yeah, I was looking at that too, right? Like there's TTC.
Yeah, you still have to wear it on the transit. I think until April 27th.
Oh, okay, that's not that bad. That's like what, extra week or like extra week, 6 days.
No.
Oh, April. My bad.
Yeah,
right,
another
right.
month.
Yeah. Right, it's March. Right. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. If we pass that test, then I guess it's all done.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to, we'll talk about it further, but like in a future podcast, but it doesn't look like UBI is happening as I had hoped. Do you know anything about that? The CERB continuation. I saw that they extended it, but I don't know how long for, you know?
I don't know how long for, and I don't know how much is even the full, like the amount they get, right? It's not the full amount that it used to be from the beginning, right?
No, it's like, I think it's still $1,200, $300 a week.
Okay.
It was 2,000 before.
Okay.
Yeah, so now it's,
it might reduce
even further.
It depends, yeah.
I mean, there has been like a lot of job postings recently, you know, but all right, we'll get into that in a future podcast, just like the ramifications, because the real next step is like the economic, like, you know, the rebounding. But I guess with the war,
there's another added
problem.
Economic situation.
yeah. Anyways, so I thought we'd talk about how con artists are really big now. So I watched Tinder Swindler. You haven't seen Anna?
No.
Or The Dropout? No. They're all basically like Tinder Swindler. So Anna and The Dropout. I don't know what it is. Remember we were talking about this, like movies go through seasons? Where it's like this summer is all the army movies, and then this summer is all the superhero movies. You know, it kind of seems like right now is the whole like Swindler season.
Yeah, the con artist.
Yeah, con artists.
Yeah, because, the ones that are more similar, I would say, like The Dropout to like the Purdue one you watched, or
the Anna Delvey.
No, like not Like these are a lot of them are like company ones too. Like Dropout. Dropout is
Oh.
Theranos. Then you hit, I think earlier, watched the Purdue one. I don't know. I forgot what that was called.
Oh, Purdue. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
And then there's the Uber one that's out now. And then
Oh, that's out?
yeah,
I gotta watch that one next.
and then
yeah.
also the We Crashed
Yeah, I'm
is
waiting for
coming
that
out.
one.
So these are all.
It's so funny though, because even like 2 years ago, well, I remember the Theranos one. Okay, let's go individually. So the Tinder Swindler is about. We'll talk about that first because we both know
Sure.
what it is. The Tinder Swindler is this guy who's making these women believe he's a billionaire, and then he's like using their money instead of his money.
Yeah.
So he's just like, it's like a shell game. You know, if I need money from here, I'll take it from you and then I'll give it back to you to make it seem like I'm paying my debts and like I'll buy some stuff. But he must, like, how did that even begin? Or he must have been doing it for a long time, because you can't just jump to that.
No, I think he you don't just jump to that. I think it was like small gains,
Yeah.
and then like that leveling up each time.
But why didn't you just put it into a bank account?
No, I was thinking the same
Oh,
thing.
really?
I was thinking the
yeah.
same thing.
Because like that would make more sense. Like, or at least some of it into a bank account.
Yeah. Maybe there is, but I think it's just, I think he thinks, life is short. Might as
Oh,
well.
might as well. Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
like, doesn't matter at the end of it.
But his watch, I thought the was it Patek Philippe?
The watch.
Richard Mille. His watch that he had, I thought the minimum was $1 million, but no, the minimum is 100,000. So okay, that's attainable. Just the one that Jay-Z has is $1 million, and Pharrell is also $1 million. But it's like, it's this really famous watch for like rappers. It's not even a good watch. Like I mean, it is a good watch, like relative, but in terms of like its price value, it's doing nothing that's crazy as a watch. It's more like a brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So like, fun fact, Rolexes were tool watches for deep sea divers. And then rappers took them on as like a status symbol, and then they started to get really, really popular. Just like the Richard Milles. So he has a Richard Mille, and I was like, that's so expensive. Like, how did you store so much? Because he's asking these girls for like 20,000. I guess like you ask for 4 girls 20,000, you pay for your Richard Mille.
Yeah, I mean, these are only the girls that came out forward, right?
True. Yeah, fair point. Yeah. Because you must be doing this with a lot of people.
Because even at the end of that, it's like, oh, there was another girl there that
Who's in on it.
Yeah, it's just like, there's so many. He's gone through so many people.
But she was also the mother of his son, if that's true. But she was there. She sued him
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So it's like, did he just offer her a piece of the pie? Like, how'd that work? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there were so many like unanswered questions in that. But also at the same time, I kind of felt like he was capitalizing on a very specific type of individual.
Yeah.
Of like,
Of course, yeah.
you know what I mean?
This
Like,
is not going to work on someone like, I don't want to say smart, but like,
which brings me to Anna Delvey. So, anything else about Tinder Swindler before we move on to Anna?
no, I think it made him more infamous, I would say, than,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
because now people probably searched him on Instagram and follows him.
Yeah. Wait. Do you mean like infamous, like in a bad way, like everyone's looking for him, or like famous?
No, like famous.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think
yeah.
that was their intention. Intention was to bring it out, the story, but like ridicule him in a way. But I don't think
They intended to make him infamous, but they just ended up making him famous.
Yeah.
Actually, same. I agree, because I was like, "What's his Instagram? I want to follow this guy." But then it was like too long. I was like, I don't really care about this guy anymore.
No, I don't really care about the guy, but it was just, I think there's a lot of people that started to follow him. Just
Yeah, true. Isn't it so funny that like we live in such a headline culture that I watched that, I was like, oh, that'd be cool to like follow him on Instagram. But then it's like you have to remember that long name that he had. I don't Simon something.
Levive, was it?
Yeah, but it wasn't just his name. It was like underscore or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really care enough to like delve into that, So like headline culture, like what's next? You know? Like I don't really care.
Yeah.
But it also makes you think too, because it's like, where do these things go?
Where does what go?
Like what kind of foothold do they have in our like psyche going forward? Because it's like, okay, we know about Tinder Swindler, so we're going to be more, aware.
Mm-hmm.
But like in terms of his daily life, it's like, does that really affect him? You know, we don't know.
Does that affect him? Well,
Yeah, because it seems like he's still going strong. You
yeah,
know?
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
So it's
he's
like,
still
okay. So he
I
did
think
nothing.
is it, I don't know if this is true. Like some deal he's making with like something else to make a show. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know
really?
if that's true.
Is it gonna be like that Trump show?
Wasn't he coming to Toronto or something like
Yeah, I
that?
saw that too. Yeah, Tinder Swindler's coming to Toronto.
That's-
So weird.
yeah.
But yeah, so Anna Delvey,
Mm.
this is crazy. So you're like, oh, it wouldn't work on smart people, right? So what this show really made me become aware of and like become shocked about is, well, one, how different levels of society operate. So in like really rich circles, it has nothing to do with your money. It's all about who you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like her pretending that she's like a Russian heiress worth like billions of dollars, everyone's like, oh yeah, totally. And it's like your friend corroborates it to your friend. Like nobody, the only time she got caught or like couldn't do it is she wanted to buy a building, right, in New York to build an art space. And then they had to corroborate her finances. So she was like faking that she was the bank person in Russia, and like they're like, oh yeah, we need the paperwork. Yeah, the paperwork can be sent, you know, because the banking system's different there, right? It's like it's dependent on the bank. Like here in Canada, we have the 4 major banks which are protected by the government.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of centralized, right? But the reason why they had that crash in 2008 is every bank is on their own there. So like if a bank fails, your money's gone because it's not protected by anything.
Right.
So she went to like the biggest bank and like they were checking into her finances. She was trying to hurry them along, like, oh, you don't need these papers, blah, blah, blah. And then she eventually got caught because her friend like told the cops on her because she used her friend's credit card just like Tinder Swindler.
Okay.
But yeah, so with that, it's just interesting that you can really go so far with just appearance and word of mouth.
Right.
You know? Well, that's what she's doing. She'd say, oh, my dad can't wire me the funds right now. So can I just send you this later? And then you pay for it now. And they're like, yeah, for sure. Because they trust her because she's an heiress.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like Tinder Swindler. You know, we'll quick to believe.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the thing was, I don't know, like, how long Anna's thing was, like, in the sense of, like, knowing other people, like, to build that trust or some, or build this idea that she was having money, where it's, like, in Tinder Swindler, it was, well, at least the first girl was, like, less than a month.
Right. I don't know. They didn't really go into her backstory as much. They did, like, she worked for a fashion magazine, and then from that fashion magazine she made like connections, and then she found her way to New York.
Okay.
So like they didn't really go into like how long it took her to get into that level,
Sure.
as compared to like Tinder Swindler, you know. Yeah, I feel like they're within the same realm, but they're teaching 2 different lessons.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like at least for me, I was like, wow, you can really like go far with just a name, you know. And then for Tinder Swindler, it's like, wow, you can really go far by telling people that you love them and like make them believe that you're a Russian billionaire. You know, social media, because they're like, oh, I had to Google you, and then I found out all this stuff about you, and it's like, yeah, just technology. That's all it is, you know. And then that brings me to Dropout, which I think, like, it's another swindle one because she promised a product that she couldn't deliver on. We actually know this one, right? This is one that hits close to home because I was pretty excited about it as well. You showed me that video because I hate needles, right? As most people do. And then you're like, oh yeah, this person's like testing blood and she's like really into Steve Jobs, and like I was really excited. And then like only later you told me that, you know, like she got caught for like illegal, like not actually having a product.
Well, not having a product that actually works.
Yeah. So in this show, it just shows like I guess the lesson is like how far you can go with a promise of an idea. Because that's all you really, but that's like what business is, right? It's
but
like,
I think that, that's what I was about to say. Like, a lot of it is promise of an idea, but you're hoping that there's some progress happening as you, like, whatever the product you're building, right?
Yeah, totally. It's sort of like, they alluded to it too. It's like Oracle Oracle's Windows? What is Oracle?
Maybe is it I don't know, browser or like a system?
So yeah, it's a software.
Okay, operating system.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they talked about how like Oracle didn't have the appropriate coding yet, but they got the funding, so they completed the code later. And then she didn't have the working product yet.
Yeah.
So they just completed it later.
Yeah.
Although they're attempting to complete it later with like the funding. But the problem was that every time they'd go to a venture capitalist, they'd fake the results.
So that's that. So that was the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So, but it's funny to me how much it's like, it's really, like I was telling this, I tell this to everyone, like I was telling Tara, I was telling like everyone that asks for business advice, you just need a good pitcher. And that's what that show really showed you. You just need somebody that like can inspire you to invest your money, right? It's like, it all comes down to storytelling, you know? I was working for, I won't name who that company is, but I was like doing a little bit of freelance work for them. And they were going to pitch to VCs. And they're like, oh yeah, can you copy edit the deck? I'm like, yeah, totally. Or like, can you provide some insight and copy edit the deck? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I did this whole report about how, I won't give the product away, but I was like, fundamentally, your one product is being solved by other people. So it's like they wanted to build a program that another company is already building.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But they're saying that they could be more sophisticated about it. And I was like, do you have a working product? And they're like, no, we'll start the working product when we get the money. And I was like, well, this is obviously not going to work. Like if I had money and I was a VC, like my 4-year undergrad degree already told me that this makes no sense to me. Right? He also didn't have a business degree.
Right.
It's just like an idea. He had a company that he was like but he's trying to get more funding to expand the company. And then, so then it ended up that company obviously didn't get the VC money, and then they kind of had to reshuffle things around and like let people go. But it's like, yeah, I knew that was coming, you know, but it's like, if he could convince that other person, it's kind of like a Theranos thing, you know? It's like, our software will beat everyone else's software. But if you just convince one person, they'll give you the money, and you can operate for 2 more years as you try and figure it out, you know? And it's like, how often does that happen? Probably all the time.
I think there's a lot of people that try to do that. Yeah. That's why,
right?
Like how it depends on how good your story is. Like, like, I think there's a lot of people attempting these things, but I don't know how good their stories are. Like to sell the actual
right, or how close
to get the
or how close the product is to being complete too. Like if they like see some vision for the product, like her story was like, oh, you'll never have to take a needle again. They're like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so there's a story right there.
That's a great story, right?
Yeah.
And then Apple, I was thinking about Apple because she's like obsessed with Steve Jobs. It's like connectivity, simplicity for computing, computer in every home. It's like, that's a great idea. And they started off with their like Lisa, was it the first? That's the one in the garage. I think it was called Lisa, right?
I think that came after.
Okay, so what was the one in the garage?
It's like the Apple One or something.
Okay, so they're pitching that to people.
Yeah.
And it's like, you already have a kind of working prototype, so it's like, okay, I can see where you're going.
I think they had like one, I remember like early on, someone that invested, but then he saw like there's nothing coming out, so he like withdrew.
Yeah, okay, cool.
From Apple, like early, very, very early on. So like, and then now you see where Apple's at, right?
So
there was a lot of those. I remember, I don't know his name, but they were asking him like, "Do you regret?" But at the time, it's like they didn't have any product that was working.
Somebody asked about Bitcoin, so he bought a slice of pizza for like 5,000 Bitcoin, and they're like, "Oh, are you sad that you spent all that Bitcoin because it'd be worth like billions?" Say he's like, well, at the time it was worth nothing. So it's like, you can't tell the future. So it's like, you know, but with this whole thing, it's like fascinating to me that, you know, that's all business really is, like an idea and some money to see if you can get that idea completed.
Right.
And then you just like prolong things until, so like they're like, okay, see the product, yeah, next month, it's coming. You know what I mean? And like, but nothing's coming.
Right. And how long do you wait till there's
like absolutely nothing?
Absolutely nothing.
Well, one thing that they mentioned in the show too, and I was like, this is so fascinating, is that the board essentially owns you, right? So like she's like, oh, can they fire me from my own company? And he's like, yeah, of course, you took their money, they own you now. And I was like, yeah, that's what I've been saying for a while. Like, just because you're the CEO of a company, you need a ruling majority. Yeah. Like, you need at least 51%, so that you'll always be on the board. But, like, that's why Steve Jobs got kicked out.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah. He didn't have the majority because he took their money.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like, you need their money to start a business, so you fork over ownership rights, but you have the, like, potential of being, bought out or kicked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
And then the upcoming ones are the Uber and... Oh, you said the Uber's already out, right?
Yeah, like the episodes are out. Some of the episodes
I haven't seen that, so...
Yeah.
But I'm sure, like, another cool business lesson, life lesson. But the one I wanted to say was WeWork.
Yes.
That was... So when I was working, like, 2 years, 3... You got adjust for COVID, so it's like 4 years now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wait, no, I mean, I'm just joking. You got adjust for COVID because...
No, okay.
So, like, I guess it's 4 years now ago. I was working with this company, and one thing that they were saying was, we could just use WeWork office space. So I thought, because WeWork is like a communal working space, right? So I thought it was like a genius idea. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then this documentary came out about, like, we crashed, and I'm like, wait, I thought that thing was going strong. So it's like interesting to think that, what you think is up right now could potentially, it's like Enron, you don't really know what's going on until it hits the fan. Sort of like the 2008 crisis.
Yeah.
There's so much that's, like, not being seen, or like how fragile the system is. Like, even with the gas prices, right? Oh, who knew that this war would affect our gas prices? Yeah. All right. Speaking of which, let's jump into that. Any interesting news that you...
About the gas prices?
No, about the war.
The war.
Oh, about gas prices too. Yeah. Actually, you made a good point earlier this week about the gas prices, because I was like, oh yeah, because somebody posted, like, U.S. only gets like 8% of its gas from, or fossil fuel from Russia. How is this affecting our gas prices so heavily? And
well, it's all like under this OPEC, these nations that agree on pricing, or I don't want to just say pricing, but things about production and of oil and stuff, right? So
what is that? Like, it's like a unified body?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Of nations, yeah.
Wow. So it's like the World Bank, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for oil. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, that's how these oil prices go up and down. It's because of
their decisions.
Because of in a way, right? They don't. It's like what happened during COVID, or I mean, we're still in COVID, but like in the early parts, people weren't driving, so they don't have to produce as much oil.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, people are going back to work, but then there's a war, so it's like,
supply's not meeting demand.
It's like it could be some of those things.
So there's like a scarcity.
Or no, there's just not. They haven't pumped out enough.
Yeah,
to fix. Yeah. So the cost of it goes up and up and down. Yeah.
Yeah, like the supply, the oil that gets pumped out, and the demand is we're all going back to work. Yeah. So there's not enough. So like scarcity, you have to raise the prices. Yeah, that's crazy. And then it's like affecting
but it
food.
like comes into, so like didn't today it's like dropped, or was it yesterday? It dropped 15 cents.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
it dropped, so it's like heavy. So we all
there's
filled
like
up.
There's like, that's what I'm saying. It kind of works with the market. It's like, I remember when the war first started, markets dropped, and then it went back up again to normal levels and stabilized.
So you kind of just have to wait it out.
It's like it's all like, do we have enough or do we not have enough? It's more like those sort of actions that are, or reactions that are happening,
right,
causing it to go up and down.
So like, essentially, you could say like gas prices are like real world tangible stock market prices in action.
Yeah, it can
like
be.
We're watching it go up and down every day, and we're like, oh, jump in, jump out now. And yeah, it's affecting like supplies and stuff. I was talking to my cousin in the Philippines, and he was saying like they're having a hard time with pricing now because everything has to go up. Yeah, because gas prices.
Yeah, and at the same time, inflation is happening. So it's like,
that's
how do you level all these things off, right?
Yeah, that's rough. The thing with the war too is like, again, I don't really want to speak on it because like the two sides, like everyone's all about like the Ukraine right now, and like, well, let's just look at both sides and then judge. But I feel like I don't know enough about war policies and like economic ramifications to like pick a side, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Death is obviously bad, so you know,
Of course, yeah. But that's why nobody can do anything about the war, right? Like, it's happening. Nobody, if any of the NATO nations join in, then it's World War III.
Yeah, so I was
So we can't.
that up.
We can't.
No, I meant opinion wise.
Yeah. Okay. About the war, like if it's right or wrong.
Yeah, because it's like I mean, obviously all war is wrong. Like killing's bad. I mean,
Sure.
that's from like such an altruistic perspective. But you need war. That's the other thing, right? It's a double-edged sword.
But we've been. It's like it's been part of human society for a long time.
Yeah, but that's too callous to say, right?
I know.
Like when people. No, I agree with you. It's like it is just part of human nature. So it's like, but that's a deeper level conversation. You know, where it's like, well, if you just
like if you think about it, like we've only been in relative peace, at least in obviously European relative peace, only like for a short time, right? Like they've had 2 wars in Europe in the last 100 years.
Oh wait, which ones? Tell me.
World War I and World War II.
Oh, in the last 100 years. Okay, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I was thinking more recent. I was like, oh, okay, so
and it's like, yeah, but it's like Europe has been going through issues for a long time. Like it's not like
yeah.
Right. So it's like,
well, technically those are like, see when you said like Europe, I thought it was like localized. So I was like, oh, okay, like just there. But you meant like global war.
Yeah. But it was mainly in Europe, right? That's where it was.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. There's only Pearl Harbor, but that was about it.
Yeah, but the instigations were like World War I, World War II. That's what we all get taught, right?
Yeah.
Like, do we know of other? There are other wars, but they're not like world wars in that sense, and they were only in Europe.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, right? So it's like here's another situation that's going on in Europe, right?
Well, the Afghan war too, though.
Yeah, but it's not it's no, there are these wars, but they're not world wars, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like the biggest stuff has only happened in Europe.
Oh, I see. Like instigated by Europe. Yeah, true. Well, I mean, they're the global ruling power. When they get in, it's like they have so much.
But they've had these issues in Europe for a long time. Like only relatively, it's been somewhat stable, and then now we have Ukraine thing, right? That's going on. That's the thing for Europe, for relative to Europe.
Lifespan, though,
yeah.
Within our
but relative to Europe, yeah.
Because I'm thinking about like ancient wars too. You know, there's always been.
No, sure, of course, yeah. I'm saying in our relative history, in our modern history.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like.
But there's a lot of stuff there's a vision that Putin has. That's what he's doing. And you know, I don't know if Ukraine expected a lot of help from NATO to really get involved in this. But if NATO ever gets involved to the point of actually like doing some sort of actions, then it's World War III. Right? That's what we don't.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up because it was pretty freaky. I was like, the CNN was on, and Biden was saying that he's like, "Let us be clear, this will be World War III." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Like we were talking about this. Remember, like in the last podcast, like, oh, nobody wants a hot war, because if we do have one, then you know we'll jump into World War III. And then he actually said it and was like, "Oh, this is a reality. This is a possibility now." You know,
like they were asking for a no-fly zone, Ukraine, but you can't do that because if Russians are using jets, so if you say no-fly zone and they use the jets, then NATO has to shoot them down. But that's the start of the war. A world war.
But that's I feel
that's why like Ukraine's in a tough spot where like you can help them with ammunition and other things like that, but you really just can't join their war.
And it's just like
they're in a tough predicament.
We're in a tough spot going forward because we replace one uncertainty with another uncertainty, and now we're all kind of like, when is the ball going to drop? You know, because it's happened twice before. But I feel like it'll be different this time. Like, I don't think that it'll be as it'll be as globally encompassing as before. I don't think.
As what?
As before.
As before. Yeah,
because
yeah.
Think about how many people would revolt on that. Like, they even showed like Russians revolting, right? Like, it's like,
didn't
nobody
he
wants
just
that.
recently like banned Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that follow, I guess, people that are outside of Russia.
Yeah.
So they don't want the
Dude, imagine being like
memes coming in.
Imagine like living in Russia or like Ukraine right now, like. But also, remember that meme where it's like the Syrian war or whatever, like stuff is happening right now and we don't even care about it because it's not actually affecting our lives.
Yeah.
Like, that's also a reality of other people's lives around the world, you know?
Yeah. Like Yemen.
Yeah,
like
right.
Yemen, between Saudi Arabia and Yemen.
Yeah, and we're just over here in the north, like Elysium, living in these like protected bubbles. We couldn't fathom a war actually happening on Canadian soil.
Yeah, no.
We couldn't, right? Think about how many people like would freak out.
Yeah, of course.
Not be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. But yeah. Another thing that also, all right, so speaking of, got anything else about the potential World War III?
I don't think it's going to get to that. I hope it doesn't get to that.
I hope it doesn't get to that.
Good.
Not that I don't. Because there's that potentiality. Could happen.
There is, but I don't think that's what Russia wants.
Okay. As long as they don't want it to.
Yeah, because it would decimate them.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they want that.
And like, I believe we were saying this in the last podcast, it's like, if it does come to World War III, it's like, it's not just bombs you got to worry about. It's like they'll just disrupt all your satellite communications.
Yeah.
Like, you'll just go dark. I couldn't even fathom what was possible if a whole world war happens.
In today's age.
Yeah, in today's, right? It's like, they're just unleash the hounds, you know? It's like, oh, you want to see something crazy? Check this out.
There's other, even with this current war, it's like, there's a lot of what's happening, especially because of the internet. It's like misinformation and disinformation.
Right.
It's like, what's the actual information?
What's
the true information?
Yeah, like the CGI footage that gets released, like the person where he's like running through the street and there's like burning building, but it's only one burning building and they just like added CGI fire on top of all the buildings. I was like, oh, it's crazy. You can't even trust what you see on social media anymore. Well, I mean, like, you couldn't before, but
right now it's even more. It's like, which side is telling truth, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there's things that Ukraine has done that they shouldn't be doing, like under the Geneva Convention, by putting like Russian soldiers on TV and saying like, we shouldn't be doing this or something like that. You can't, like, under the war crimes for Geneva Convention, you should not be doing that.
Oh, why? Well, I don't know anything about it.
You can't put your like opponents, like soldiers, on TV showing their face and everything. Like it's like, yeah, you can't. It's like a unified body. These things are
like they agreed that
you should not be doing these, but they're doing this, right? But there's no actions right now against Ukraine for doing that.
Nobody cares, bro. Nobody cares. Like,
the reason is that so that if you do it, then the enemy's going to do the same thing. So it's like, we'll both agree not to do this, but they're doing it, right?
Oh, wait. You mean like hostage style situation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, all right, yeah. You didn't clarify, so I was like, oh, I don't get it. What? There's soldiers.
Like putting them on, the Russian soldiers caught in Ukraine, putting them on TV, and them saying that,
please don't have this.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, we'll cut off your fingers if you don't say this. Yeah, true. Oh, that's rough. Yeah, it'll be interesting going forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's inevitable that it will fall to Russia. I mean, Ukraine will fall to Russia.
But then, What's next?
What's next? I don't know.
Yeah. Rough. So speaking of other things that'll eventually kill us, I finished a climate change book.
Okay.
So Stephen E. Coonan, I don't know. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he put out this book talking about like how climate science is wrong, and then Joe had the opposite, like a guy argue his points, and then that guy was saying like, oh, his points weren't wrong, but they're framed in a way to make you think a certain thing. You know, it's sort of like a when you're defending a murder trial, right?
Yeah,
the evidence is all there.
Yeah,
but it's like how are you framing the evidence, right? So that's what they're both doing. And then so I picked up the book. I was like, oh, cool, this would be interesting to read. Half of the book is just like numbers. I'm like, who's gonna understand this? You know what I mean? And it's like anybody that's not a climate scientist that says they understand those numbers is straight up lying to you. Like, what does an inch of ozone layer depletion mean to, like, what does that mean? In relative terms, like, oh, that's cool, it's an inch, but it's like, okay, but if the threshold is like 300 million inches and it's 1 inch reduction, it's like, who cares then? You know what I mean? It's like,
what do these numbers actually mean?
Like in relative to the problem.
Yeah.
Right. The second half of the book's good. It's like, it's more about how we can't move away from fossil fuels. And I was like, that's true. So one point that I was thinking about, and it relates to the gas prices, is like 80% of our energy comes from fossil fuels. So it's like, how do you change that? And he brought up the point of COVID, how like COVID kind of broke our system, and then gas prices rose because, or like they got affected because of like this supply chain issues, right?
Yeah.
Like we can't get people working, we can't get any logistics because of COVID, we got regulations, etc. And he's saying how fragile our system is, and like if we were to revert to clean energy, that'd be so disruptive in its process as well. So we couldn't do it fast enough, is what he's saying. To hit the goal of like net zero by 2050. So like the goal is like by 2050, zero carbon emissions.
Yeah, that's hard. I don't think so. I mean, for the world. Yeah, no.
And what are you saying too is also we've profited. I swear we've talked about this on the podcast. That's why I was like, oh, this is an interesting point, because we talked about this too. We've profited from global warming, like fossil fuels, the West, right? And then now the developing countries are profiting. So who's to say that you should stop profiting?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like you're finally getting like to the point where you can use fossil fuels to like create.
Yeah, I think we talked about this. Yeah, there was these.
It's like India or like China.
India and China.
Like,
and
how do you tell them to stop, bro?
Yeah, it's like if you want us to do what you're talking about, green energy, then you give us the money to do green energy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was the point that they were saying in their meetings. It's like, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you want us to do green energy, then you give us the money.
Yeah, he brought up that point in the book too, and I was like, that's a solid point, because like climate change issues really come up to like keeping the status quo. You know, we just want the West to stay the West, the East, like we want nothing to change. Like in order for climate change to not happen, in order for society to not change, we need climate change to not happen. Right? Because that's how our world's working.
Yeah.
But if we start going towards climate change actions, then we're going to have to change our world inevitably, whether it be like adapting cities, like moving people. That's what he said. Like, it'll come
from
down
the floods.
To adaptation. Yeah, it'll just come down to adaptation. People just won't live there anymore.
I mean, it's happened already for some of these islands.
Exactly.
Island nations. Yeah.
You'll just move.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's not new to human history. So.
Yeah. But the thing is, I think some of these island nations are moving to. It's not like they're not a nation. They're moving to another nation. Like they're as refugees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's what he's saying. Like humans just adapt over time. They just continuously adapt.
Yeah. So we've never been. I mean, we're nomadic, right? We're supposed to be. We've never stayed in one spot.
Exactly. That's my point too. Yeah. Like so given everything, I really feel like climate change is very similar to like arguing about, is God real? It's like you don't know you'll never know. Like only the theologians and the philosophers like the people who are decoding this stuff can like ever really debate it.
Mm-hmm.
But like layman's, we just pick a side, and that's it. You just live your life picking a side.
Yeah. You can't really do anything anyway.
Like, is there climate change? I don't know. Like, I'll just pick a side and just toe that line.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And like, from my own perspective, it's like, wouldn't it be better to act in accordance if climate change is real?
True.
Because then it's like, at least I'm doing things that are.
Well, that's why these nations agree on certain things, but like you can't just cut away from fossil fuels. Right?
No, you can't.
You just can't.
But like, do the best you can, and like, if your best wasn't good enough, at least you tried.
Right.
That's just, like my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, how are you gonna not sleep at night just because of this issue? You know what's crazy? Those like lobbyists that are like lobbying for it and they don't really understand it. Like, do you really understand it as a climate science? Like, do you understand the first half of Stephen Kuhn's book?
No, I don't think they're looking at it necessarily by scientific reasons. They're looking at it very emotional reasons for their future or for their kids' future.
Exactly. So like, you just toe the line. You can never really know if it's true or not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a correlation. You're like, oh, there's more wildfires, there's more, et cetera, et cetera. You know, droughts, flooding. Mm-hmm. Sure. But how much of that is
or
actually...
it's more like maybe climate change is a real thing, but...
How much is it human?
How much is it, not just necessarily human, how much is it going to affect us in that sense? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it could be true, but will it affect us?
Yeah, he put that in the book, like the theory of Miami submerging.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's like below sea level or whatever.
Yeah,
so if sea level rises, it'll like be flooded.
Right.
Maybe. But like, doesn't seem like it yet. So...
Right.
Like, their predictions are all wrong. So basically he's saying like he brought out all these predictions that they said was going to happen, were going to happen, and they didn't happen. But it's like, yeah, because nobody can predict the future.
Yeah.
Like, the science is there, but like, is it, how accurate is the science?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's like science is always accurate to the point of our ability to enact accurate science. So it's accurate to us, but accurate to predicting the future. It's like, who knows?
Yeah, I guess because there's multiple things in climate, right? It's not just...
That's why the weatherman, never correct. Not never correct, but like, you know what I'm saying? It's like...
He's not correct. I would say he's more correct in the hour rather than...
The actual...
Like a week long.
Yeah, exactly. Things can change.
But that's what but even they would say it too. It's like, it's more of a prediction. It's not...
Right. So that's what he's saying in the book, is like, you're creating mass hysteria over this idea. Because we don't know if it's really going to happen or not. These predictions. Yeah. Because the ones he put in the book, like, they didn't come true.
Right. Like, is it a 60-40 thing? Or is it like...
Exactly. Yeah, but it goes back to like COVID. So like, the war that's happening, COVID, climate change, it's like, these are all things. The only reason why I felt like we could speak on COVID is because you had to make a choice. So it's like, it's directly affecting me. You know, it's like, technically you'd say climate change is affecting you because like the weather outside, but like, do we know?
Like, is it due to what there's other things that are happening in the world too,
yeah,
right?
Totally.
That are not necessarily human
created. Like with the vaccine, it's like that was human created. So we can look at the actual trials, we can like analyze it. I'm not talking about the nature of COVID. It's just like, should I take the vaccine or not? You can have that opinion because like they're giving you their research.
Yeah.
Like, they're giving you the evidence that have already happened, right? To the best of ability, because there's no long-term studies. Yeah. But like with climate change, it's so like unknown. Same with the war. It's like, do you really understand geopolitical like issues to that level? You know, like,
yeah.
Maybe that's life. We just like pick sides.
I think that's true. People pick
like
sides.
every issue, right?
Any kind of issue, yeah.
And then the best ones are the swindlers who know how to like shape your opinion,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
But that's what he's saying in the book. Like, the way science is presented is very hysteria driven. So he's like, we should just move away from hysteria and look at real science. That's what the takeaway was. He's not saying that science is wrong. He's just like, let's not have a blanket statement approach to this.
Science isn't opinion based. It's just
right.
numbers.
No, he's talking about the presentation.
Yeah.
Like the hysteria that's being built around these. He's like, we should move away from that. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'll do one more because I'm starting to feel really sick again.
Sure.
Let's see what's a good one. Well, let's talk about. Oh, it's so tough because I have two good ones. All right, screw it. We'll just do two more. Let's talk about religion because I was talking to your brother about this and I was like, oh, this is so fascinating. Um, like, like there are so many things that have constantly been presented through all religions, like Holy Trinity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for Christians like myself or Catholics like myself, it's like Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, right? For you, it's like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And like science is like creation, destruction, sustenance,
Mm-hmm.
which is Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. And I was like, it really is. I know we've talked about this before, but it just like resparked my interest on it when I was talking to him. It's like everything that was in the ancient times is just like their basic understanding of like how the world works, because we were talking about Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, and like Brahma is the creator, right? Like think of it like the Big Bang.
Yeah.
And then Shiva is the destroyer, which is like everything must die, and then Vishnu is like sustaining. So it's like right now our life is sustained. It's like equilibrium.
Yeah,
we're not dead yet. Nothing's destroyed, and nothing's being created. I guess technically, we're creating this podcast, but you get what I'm saying. And it's like what is what is the deeper it's almost like they say like you have to tell a children's story to an adult to get the point across, right? And I feel like that's what all religion is, but we mistake it for the treasure instead of looking at the treasure itself, like Bruce Lee's line, you're like looking at the finger, not the moon. I don't know, just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's probably how they told stories, like it's
like campfire stories, something,
things like that. But I feel like it's because it's so many years, it's like some things would stay, some things wouldn't stay, like, or like how they explain things, like there's there's a lot of philosophies, especially in the ancient stuff, right?
Yeah,
like
that they're trying to pass across over like parables.
Yeah, and there's like some of these things are very poetic, right? They can be very poetic, but you have to break those down, like what do they mean and things like that.
So, let me go. Let me tell you the story that I was thinking of because your brother brought it up. So Ganesh, he was a clay baby. He's a clay figure made by Shiva's wife.
Yeah.
Well, what's his wife's name?
Parvati.
Yeah, right. And then she went to go take a shower or something. And she's like, don't let anyone in.
Yeah.
And then Shiva comes and he's like, do you know who I am? And then Ganesh is like, no, I was told you can't go in. So he kills him, right?
Yeah.
And then...
well, chops off his head.
Yeah. And then Parvati comes out and she's like, this was our son, right? So she takes the head of an elephant and puts it on top or something.
Well, yeah, whatever, I forgot what she told him, but then he had to go out and find a head.
Something to replace
his head, which was the elephant head.
Right, totally. So you can, I guess it's like our own stories of today, like Batman, and like, because what does that mean?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, that's a cool story. Like that's how that happened, but what can you draw from the story?
Yeah. So there's like there's other lessons that I really liked where because he has a brother, right? Ganesh has a brother. I forgot it's Subramanian. I forgot his name, but I think that like the lesson was like I forgot exactly the thing, but like who's be the fastest to go around their world.
I was like the Flash and Superman.
Yeah, kind of, and it's sort of like that, but it's more philosophical in the sense that the other guy, like we all have what do you call those?
Superpowers?
Super. No, they have like animals, right? Like along with the gods, like
Totems.
they're
They're like animal guides, spirit guides.
kind of things. Yeah, like they're vehicles in a way for them.
Okay, cool.
Which is funny
I'm
because
trying to pair everything to like things we've heard of before.
Right,
Like,
yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
like humorous, but it's like no, just get the point here. It's like Batman the Flash.
Right.
You know?
No. I mean, actually, that was a lot of things that, like, even my dad said that too. It's like it's your superheroes. Like for me, Superman.
Oh, cool.
Yes, for them, it's those guys. Yeah, he said
See,
it like
that's an awakened perspective. It's not like did Christ really die and then rise 3 days later? Like my mom will tell you yes, but I'll be like, I think it's an analogy, unless he's a zombie. You know, I don't know. But anyways, continue.
So Ganesha won the race, right? While the other guy went around the world on his peacock, I think it was.
Okay.
And then he's like, how did Ganesha finish? Well, it was a philosophy in the sense that his world was his parents. So he went around his parents.
Oh, dude.
While he was more materialistic and he went around the earth.
Right.
So it's like these are lessons that I remember. Like these are not, they're stories, but there's a lesson in that story.
That's pretty genius. Or like, how do you hack the system? That's what I got from that. I'm like, yeah, it's
exactly. You can take it. That's what I'm saying is as a metaphor. It's like you can apply it to different things. You can whatever fits your world, right?
Right. And if you get too caught up in the finger pointing at the moon, you don't look at the moon. That's like the whole idea here.
There's another thing that's not like a story, but it's more like another breakdown of meanings or understanding. It's like every time, like, so when we blink, there's a word for that. But like
every time you blink,
yeah. So blinking, there's a word that this one word means so many things. Where it's like every time I blink, I destroy the world.
Oh yeah,
and then I open my eyes, and then I recreate the world.
True.
Like, but there's like a word, a single word that they use to mean that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it's like it's very interesting because I think a lot of these old stuff.
We do that actually. Like a kid would tell you, like, "Oh, I have the world. Close my eyes. No, it's not there. Oh, my eyes.
Exactly.
Oh, it's there again."
Yeah, but there's like these are like ancient stuff that was there. Like this is things that they've taught about or like thought about. Like this is all philosophy stuff, right?
Yeah,
so it's
it's like the foundation of all philosophy. Yeah. Fascinating. I think I brought this one up before during like the physics podcast with Michio Kaku's book, but he was talking about like how there's string theory and like the vibration of the world and like
you're making that connection.
The
last week, or not last week, the one before.
Yeah, so like the ohm is the universal sound, and then he found out that there is a vibration that's like creating the world. Like creates the vibration of the particles, and those particles create our world. So at the heart of those particles is a specific vibration, and if you can calculate the vibration, you calculate everything. Yeah, it's the theory of everything.
Right.
The mathematical equation.
I wonder like what kind of level of science and stuff they actually had then, right? And what kept.
Yeah, true, totally.
Right, because we like if the ancient aliens thing or.
Yeah,
it's like they had words for planes before.
Yeah.
So,
chariots, like chariots of fire.
Yeah, but like Vimana.
Oh, okay.
That's a plane.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, or like I don't know. It's like a
literal translation or like But you know what it is also? It's like chicken before the egg. Like, did we create the plane because we were inspired by that word, or did that word predict the plane?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like
we don't know. Like these are all. That's what I'm saying. Like, this becomes mythology, right?
Yeah.
So like what is truth? What's not? But like there must be some fragment of truth.
I used
in
to,
some of these stories.
Yeah, totally. I used to watch like Ancient Aliens that they would show like rocket ships in the sky, and they're like, oh, this is like they predicted our planes. They said that Nostradamus also predicted 9/11 too, and I'm like, you're just picking and choosing, bro. But anyways, so like. Are those really planes, or was it something that they aspired towards? Right. And then we eventually created it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like you didn't predict it; you just told someone to do it. Like, when is it a prediction, and when is it just telling someone? What is it prediction, and when is it foresight?
Or like an idea that they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like rapid tests. Did I predict that, or did I have foresight? I just had foresight. I was like, this would make more sense, right? but then they're like, oh, you could see into the future. It's like, no, it just made sense, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, again, it goes back to stories and storytellers, right? Like, what is real, whatever you choose to believe, because you create that story. And that's why Tinder Swindler works. Because like, you just created the story. We believed it.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're going to search up...
No, I just was looking up the actual word, make sure it was the right word that I was using.
Oh, okay.
Which is right.
Yeah. Okay, so last thing, it kind of goes into this a little bit, but like I was watching Safe House, Green Zone, like The Matrix. Like during our time, we were very anti establishment. I guess it came out because like 9/11. The Matrix came out before 9/11, but then after 9/11, you noticed a lot of like government secrets coming out. You know what I mean? Like Safe House was about like corruption within the CIA, and then Green Zone was also about corruption. And it made me think like Snowden is our age. Maybe he was just inspired. Like, why did he tell all the secrets of the government spying? Right? Because he was probably influenced by those. Like, I need to tell the truth, do the duty for my country.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, Safe House was Snowden. So, like, at the end, there's a file with all the corrupt people, and then Ryan Reynolds' character, he, like, releases it.
Right.
Sort of like
Okay.
Snowden. Right? So it's like, why do we vilify him? Well, I mean, the older people would vilify him, but we don't exonerate. We see him as like a hero, a patriot.
Yeah.
You know? But it's really like, what side are you on? But yeah, there's just so much that we don't know that it's so hard to keep up with anything. To like circle back to the point of like climate change, it's like you really just got to pick a side and just toe that line. You know what I mean?
Just makes it easier to live life like that.
Right? Because like what movies and documentaries are being made right now about like the Russia-Ukraine crisis that we don't even know about.
Right.
They're not movies, but like they're like things that are happening that will be turned into movies. Like with the Valkyrie, Hitler's, the movie with Tom Cruise and the assassination of Hitler. Like I feel like there's just an infinite amount of things to know. And then once you know it, it's like, what do you decide to do with that? You know?
Right, yeah.
Like one of God's superpowers is omniscience. So it's like he knows everything, right? Yeah. But if he knew everything, it's like, well, one, wouldn't he be bored? And two, it's like, where do you go from here?
Right, yeah.
I think we actually talked about that last podcast too. Like, there's a point of diminishing returns. Like, if you know too much, it's like, well, you can't do anything with that information.
Unless you can't really do anything with information unless you have some sort of power to do something with that information.
Like if you're like a politician or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, depends on the politician.
Yeah. True. But like, this again goes back to like Anna Delvey now, like different layers of life that we're just not, like, we're not privileged to. Like she was having dinner with all of her rich friends and they wanted to hear the Lil Wayne album before it came out.
Right.
So he just bought all the masters before it came out and he played at the dinner. And it's like, what is that like? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You're living. What was that movie where they talked about that, where he got kidnapped, his ear got cut off? Mark Wahlberg.
I don't remember.
He's like Italian. He's like the son of a billionaire, oil mogul.
Mark Wahlberg. I don't remember this.
Oh well, it was with Kevin Spacey, and then Kevin Spacey got removed because of his sexual allegations.
I didn't see that movie. I don't think I saw that movie.
Oh, it's a good movie. So the opening line is like, "We look just like you, but we're not the same."
Okay.
It's like, he's like, "You'll pass us on the street, but we are not like you at all." It's because they're rich. So it's like, yeah, we'll go to the same malls, we'll go to the same food places, but like our life experiences are totally different.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Because they're able to do things we could not even imagine. But this coming from like a middle class perspective, right? You and I.
Sure.
imagine a poor person, like somebody on the street doing a podcast. One, they wouldn't do a podcast, but imagine they had a podcast. They'd be like, what is it like to be middle class?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like relative perspective.
Yeah. I mean, we're all, I don't say we're all, but we have some sort of privilege, right?
We do, yeah.
There are other
how
people.
Can we just go to VIP like that? VIP movie theaters.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah. And then
but they can't. And it's like, oh, privilege. It's
like an abundance
really
of food, all that stuff. But there's other parts of the world that are struggling.
Starving. Yeah,
and starving.
Totally.
And like, how does that exist in,
the same time?
In the same time.
Yeah. You know what? All right. Takeaway from this podcast. Really appreciate your life. Like where you are in life. Because this like video game that we're all playing, it's like you could have it way worse. Obviously you could have it better, but you'd always have it way worse.
Mm-hmm.
You know? We aren't in those war-torn places. We aren't starving right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like count your blessings.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And enjoy the ride because like you only get one shot at the ride.
Mm-hmm.
So far as we know.
Well, I would say even if it's not one shot, it's one shot that we know.
Yeah, right. Oh, good point. Because even if we reincarnate, it's like, well, we won't remember this life.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so enjoy the video game.
Yeah.
Till next time. Hopefully next week I am not sick. All right. Oh no. Okay. Wait, I did the cough just came. All right. Take it easy, Bish.
Peace.
Bye. All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors: Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Bish.
Peace.